Welcome to the Nevis Newscast for Thursday, January 11th, 2018. I'm Fredicia Liebert. Premier the Honorable Mark Brantley recently reminded senior civil servants that, as members of the public service, they have a responsibility to give timely and adequate responses to members of the public to avoid liability. Pointing to lawsuits against the government, Premier Brantley urged the senior civil servants to set good precedents on the job.
That a part of the reason it seems that is leading to these legal actions is the way we take decisions, or in some cases don't take decisions. Because one of the complaints we've had is sometimes people complain that they write 4 and 5 and 6 letters and nobody responds to them. It may not be that they make our lives easy, but we certainly have a responsibility to engage with them. If it is that the process says that we must satisfy A, B, and C, if your person satisfies A, B, and C, and then you, for your personal reasons, say, I'm not going to give you the benefit or whatever, we end up under the clock. If they did not satisfy A, B, and C, and you say you're going to bend the rule for them because of who they are, we end up under the clock. Once you see you bend the rule or you break the rule, somebody out there is going to come and use that bad precedent as an example as to why they too. And I'm asking you to shy away from that by simply saying this is what the rule provides. If, having said this is what the rule provides, and having done your job, they decide to come up to my home or to come to my office or to go to another minister, then that's a matter for the member of the public. But you would have done your job. And that is all that we are asking of you.
The Premier implored the senior civil servants to exercise care in their decision-making and to let their interactions with their peers, subordinates, and the members of the public be guided by fairness.
Let it be guided by fairness, because once again, you start to favor this person because he's your friend or he's your auntie cousin, and that person you put pressure on because you don't like them, then you end up with a kind of not only civil service, not only public service, but you end up with the kind of society that we're trying to avoid. And so I'm asking for your help. As a government, we intend to be as supportive as we can, but I can equally say that as a government, we are going to expect from the public service that you provide the best possible service to the members of the public. They are our clients, they're who you serve, they're who we serve as the ministers. And if you do your job well, we think that it will be easy for us as ministers to do our job. Truth be told, our purpose is really to set policy. It is your purpose to carry out and effect that policy.
Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, speaking at a meeting between the NIA Cabinet and senior civil servants. As Nevis joins in the January 11th celebration of Alexander Hamilton's 261st birthday, Chief Executive Officer at the Nevis Tourism Authority, Greg Phillip, says he is pleased that persons are now making the connection between Hamilton and Nevis. As such, the NTA is using the fact that Nevis is Hamilton's birthplace as a marketing ploy.
Yes, Alexander Hamilton have been mentioned in the actual article by CNN as one of the main reasons for people to come and visit Nevis, and it really links Hamilton on Nevis and the fact that this is his birthplace. So that is a good thing for us, and where it pays off is the fact that over the years we've been associating ourselves with the actual play on Broadway, which we know was tremendously popular. So it's good that now we're seeing, yes, some dividends at least, that people are now making the connection, including very influential publications and media houses in the United States. So that in itself should drive more visitors our way.
Phillips says because of Nevis's rich history, it is impossible to market Nevis without speaking about its history.
So when you visit Nevis, it's really something that you do not have to go and look for. If you work in Charleston, you're working in a historic location, you're working in historic buildings. If you're in a village, believe me, there's truly something historic about your village. So if you're staying at a hotel, there's something historic about your hotel. So our history on Nevis is really a live-in history. And that in itself is something that appeals to travelers. So over the years, when we do speak about Nevis, when we promote Nevis overseas and we tell people about Nevis, we can't do that without mentioning the history of Nevis. And that is one of the aspects of Nevis that people like to explore once they visit.
Philip was speaking to the Department of Information about the recent naming of Nevis on CNN Travel's list of the 18 best places to visit in 2018. Meantime, the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, NHCS, is encouraging members of the public to donate towards the Alexander Hamilton Scholarship Fund through its annual tea party. The NHCS has partnered with the Department of Community Development to organize the annual tea party and awards ceremony on the grounds of the Alexander Hamilton Museum of Nevis History on Friday, January 12, 2018, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Nevis marks the January 11th birthday of Alexander Hamilton by giving scholarships to 4 needy students. These students, drawn from the Gingerland and Charlestown secondary schools, will be presented with the scholarships during the tea party. 23 students, most of them from low-income families, are currently benefiting from the Alexander Hamilton Scholarship Fund, which was established in 1966 by the Trott family to assist deserving students with uniforms, books, and other school supplies. Tickets for the tea party cost $25 and all proceeds go to the Alexander Hamilton Scholarship Fund. Tickets are available at the Alexander Hamilton Museum. For more information or to make a donation to the Alexander Hamilton Scholarship Fund, contact NHCS Acting Executive Director Pauline Gunjuri at 661-4148. Still to come, a 3-day workshop aims to develop a co-management model for the Narrows. The details after this break.
Hello, my name is Culturama, the Caribbean's greatest summer line. Most islands have their festival annually, but they call it Carnival. With all those shows, we fete and fun. We party from sun up to sundown. Everybody come now, show the world what we mean when we talk about Culturama. Rocks up, flags up, flags up. Time to wake up for the jam. We coming down early to be morn. Rocks up, flags up, flags up. Time to jump up in the van.
Welcome back. A workshop which commenced today is aiming to facilitate the development of an effective co-management model for the Narrows. Here is more in this report.
The General Secretariat of the Organization of American States, OAS, Sustainable Cities, Resilience and Risk Management Project is collaborating with the St. Kitts and Nevis Department of Marine Resources to facilitate the 3-day workshop. The opening ceremony took place this morning at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall. Participating in the workshop are representatives of the Legal Department, Nevis Air and Seaports Authority, the Fishermen's Cooperative, Environmental Health, as well as the Departments of Physical Planning, Environment and Marine Resources on St. Kitts and Nevis.
I am pleased that we have a very nice cross-section of stakeholders for the Narrows, and that gives some indication that we would have some lively discussions, and at the end we should have a model for co-management of the Narrows that would be applicable to other marine managed areas and hopefully have widespread use within the Caribbean region.
Consultant for the St. Kitts and Nevis Department of Marine Resources, Janice Hodge. The facilitator for the workshop is Dr. Richard Huber, Chief of the Sustainable Communities, Hazard Risk and Climate Change section in the OAS Department of Sustainable Development.
As you all know, you've gone through, and particularly here in Nevis and St. Kitts, as well as Dominica and Puerto Rico and other islands, really a catastrophic shock just this year. And what we noted, and some of the data is just in, that those islands that had more healthy and productive reefs, had better eelgrass beds, mangrove ecosystems, had protected those ecosystems, there was significant buffering of some of the storm impacts. However, if there were hotels built right on the beach too close to the high water mark, there was generally a lot more damage, a lot more beach erosion, and of course economic damage to the hotel. So this is the topic, I think, right now in the Caribbean is co-management. Can we pull together the different public-private partnerships that can advance the conservation, the sustainable development agenda? It's all about partnerships. It's really, nobody can do it alone. No one ministry, no one NGO, no one community-based group, no one set of fisherfolk can actually move the needle towards a more sustainable agenda if it's not really done at the level of the community, at the level of the region.
The areas to be covered include principles of ecosystem-based management, definition of area of focus for co-management, management needs for area of focus, and stakeholders' perceptions regarding core management of the Narrows. The participants will also make a field visit to Newcastle Bay to observe interactions between fishers and community members as fishers return from sea with their catch to sell. Reporting for the Nevis Newscast, I'm Donis Wilkinson-Keynes.
The workshop will conclude on Saturday, January 13th, with a field visit to the Narrows to observe the various users and the ecological value of the sites. St. Kitts and Nevis's Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, and Cuban Ambassador to the Federation, His Excellency Alberlado Fabio Hernandez Ferrer, have reaffirmed the commitment of their respective governments to further strengthen the shared bilateral relations between both countries. These commitments were made on Tuesday, January 9th, when His Excellency Hernandez Ferrer paid his courtesy call on Prime Minister Harris since assuming the post as Cuban ambassador to St. Kitts and Nevis. Also in attendance was Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Osbert de Souza. During the discussions, Ambassador Hernandez Ferrer expressed gratitude towards the government of St. Kitts and Nevis for the support it has given to Cuba as it relates to the calling for an end to the U.S. economic embargo. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and the Republic of Cuba share a mutually beneficial partnership, with assistance being provided to the Federation in the area of human resource development through the provision of scholarships. Prime Minister Harris said, Cuba has long been a strong and reliable voice in support of developing states, and St. Kitts and Nevis, like other countries within CARICOM, has benefited from that strong advocacy. The international agenda is rife with many issues in which St. Kitts and Nevis hopes again to collaborate and cooperate with Cuba. Some of these issues are related to climate change, climate mitigation, and resilience measures. Other issues relate to the challenge of the blacklisting of states by the OECD and the emerging issue of de-risking of banks within Caribbean islands. Prime Minister Harris also highlighted the strong support St. Kitts and Nevis has received from the Cuban government towards the social development of the Kittitian and Nevisian people, particularly in the areas of health and education. He added that he wants to see both of these areas strengthened, broadening the cooperation and the supply of specialist services to St. Kitts and Nevis, and the training of our citizens in Cuba. That's it for this edition of the Nevis Newscast. On behalf of all of us here at the Department of Information, I'm Fredicia Librand. Thank you for viewing.